I'm standing here at the Midland Police Department training facility. Now, it may not look like it, but more than 40 years ago, there were plenty of animals just roaming around this place.
Zoos. They're a great summer destination to take the kids. It's a place like no other. You get to interact with unique animals that you might have never seen before. Unfortunately, if you're a West Texan, the closest zoo is about 2.5 hours away, all the way in Abilene. But what if I told you that there was once a zoo in Midland a long time ago? Well, chances are, if you've been in Midland for a while, you remember. The Cole Park Zoo started in June of 1956, practically on accident. According to the MRT, a McCamey rancher donated a pet deer to the city of Midland, and Cole Park was selected automatically as a zoo site because it had a resident caretaker, large trees for shade, restrooms, and parking. The rest is history, as the zoo grew to more than 200 animals, including prairie dogs, birds, buffalo, longhorns, hook'em, even bears. If you liked animals, this zoo is for you. And if you're a teenager looking for a job at the time, chances are, if you have a chance to work at a zoo, you're gonna take it.
I was the first female zookeeper hired at the Cole Park Zoo when I was 16, so it had to have been about 51 years ago. I started out just as a regular zookeeper, taking care of the animals, washing the cages, helping to feed. It was just a great place to be and a great place to work. I remember the first time my mom came out to see me at work at the zoo. It was my day to clean the snake pit. And needless to say, she about had a heart attack when she saw me down in the pit with the rattlesnakes and all the other snakes.
But you didn't have to work there for the zoo to stand out to you, especially if you're living there.
I lived there more than 60 years ago, and that was 1959 that Daddy took that job, and we literally moved to zoo property.
Adrienne Beam James was just a kid when she lived at the zoo, and living at a zoo is a dream come true as an 8-year-old. But maybe it wasn't her mother's.
I had this little 8-year-old, and so I had to make sure that she didn't get into the cages after night. So I had to keep an eye on her. But for an 8-year-old kid, I was in heaven. I lived at the zoo. I had a park in my backyard. I had the best swing set, the best slide, the best seesaw. And I always had a new playmate every day.
Normal people's playmates are cats and dogs. But for Adrienne, she had something a little bit more wild.
And so all of a sudden, this bobcat cub was my little kitten. And I loved it. I'd just love on it and have it in the house. Of course, it would sometimes remember that it was a bobcat and not a kitten, and it would just lash out and claw at me or snarl.
Among the many playmates Adrienne got to choose from, there was a clear star to show.
On the back side, and just across a walkway from the building with the food, was the little cage that had the Gibbons ape, Susie, in it. But she was extremely tame, and she was so endearing, and she was the star of the zoo. Absolutely the star.
Even though Susie could swing on the cage bars, the one thing she couldn't swing was time.
She had a lot of health problems then, and she was at the vet. She was hospitalized. Bottom line is she was hospitalized a lot of the time after we got there, and eventually died during our time there. But it was such a loss. The zoo was in mourning over her, and she had her own little obituary in the paper.
Sue was buried under the zoo when she died, finally put to rest by someone who also had that same love for her.
My husband buried her.
Really? Wow.
The Beam family left the park in January of 1964 when Mr. Beam got a new job as a police officer. After they left, since it wasn't supposed to be a zoo, problems arose, including the old facilities and unfavorable location. After a failed bond proposal to build a new zoo, the zoo closed down in 1977 after 21 years of operation. But the Beam family didn't learn this until 2019.
We're at what used to be the Cole Park Zoo.
And naturally, they wanted to go visit their old stomping ground.
When we went back, when Mother and I went back to Midland and to see the zoo a few years ago, drove up in front of our house, and we stopped and got out and started walking around on top of our foundation. And you could see where the walls had been way back when. An officer comes walking toward us. He's not acting threatening or acting like, what the heck are you doing here? But he's coming to check out these two ladies, mature ladies, who are over on their little exercise pad that has these big tires. We had a nice visit with him. We told him what our history was there, and he was so pleasant. And he, in turn, invited us for a tour. and put us in the back of his police car and drove us all around the zoo and the park and showed us how each part of it is used today. And it was fascinating.
Even though it's been more than 40 years since the zoo left Midland, those zoo memories didn't leave the Midlanders who once called this place home. But if there's one thing they all agree on, they would love to see one there one more time.
I think that would be amazing. I think that would be awesome. I think there's definitely a desire for something like that.
I think if they have an opportunity to do that, they shouldn't miss it at all. I think a zoo is an important contribution to any city.
A contribution that the children of Midland would appreciate, no matter what age or generation they come from. Because experiencing a zoo is something you remember for a long time. Just ask the 8-year-old who lived there and the 16-year-old who worked there more than 40 years ago.
Now, when I reached out to Midlanders about this zoo, I got almost 100 comments about people cherishing the memories here. I got so many pictures about the zoo here. So it really shows how much this zoo touched so many people who lived back then. Who knows, maybe you'll be able to cherish some memories from a zoo here in Midland sometime soon. In Midland, I'm Marcus Risen.